Welcome to Symbaroum. This is a TTRPG system and setting created by Free League Publishing. Today, we will be recording offline as Twitch is having issues, but I will go ahead and hand the mic over to my friend Kevin, also known as Obdurant.
All right, thank you. So the scene opens on our three adventurers standing by a tree that has sort of been fashioned into a little shelter. And an elf is in near proximity. I think at the end of last session, Chorus and Araga both tried to
that did not actually happen.
Charm the elf, and
That
they
totally
rolled
happened.
for it and
totally
failed miserably.
It was not an actual thing.
It was totally an actual thing. Because if we succeeded, I would have totally been like, this is a thing. Okay, well...
Look, yours can be a thing.
Well, listen, I'm not a coward, so I'm going to stick to my role.
Okay. So as we kind of fade back into the scene here, this masked elf, who you can't even see the facial features, but you can still see through her entire posture the sort of bewildered, not quite disdain, but like confused attitude that she's leveling on this hulking barbarian who's just tried to make a pass at her. And after a moment, she shakes her head and just kind of changes her focus over to Dati again.
Dati likewise has an utter and complete disinterest with such behavior, but gives a mild "what can you do" shrug.
Yeah, and she'll kind of mirror that shrug. She is tall enough that you're fairly certain that she's an autumn elf, so she has a little more composure than some of her younger cousins that you've interacted with previously. And it's kind of like a human's what can you do, right?
Oh wait, she's tall? Maybe I do want that. Oh
my god. Anyway, she's going to, in Elvish, continue speaking to Dati and say, with a gesture eastward, if you continue off that way for about 10 or 15 minutes, I'll be able to show you where you can shelter. I need to go fetch something in the meantime, so you'll be on your own, but it is safe. And with that, she just sort of turns and begins to lope off. And she's very nimble. She's out of sight in only a couple seconds, and the three of you are kind of left to your own devices.
Okay. Dati will just go in the direction pointed. It's still Davokar.
Mm-hmm.
Things could have changed in the last 10 seconds, much less however long it's been since the elf had been that way to say it was safe. But she'll keep an eye out, but she'll head off that way.
Chorus will walk up to Dati and whisper, so was that them saying it was safe or it was unsafe?
Safe.
He'll nod at that, having not heard any of the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Araga has probably spent the entire conversation looking a little uncomfortable because she's been rebuffed.
Mm-hmm.
Her arms are crossed over her chest, and she lingers towards the edge of this little... I believe we walked into a tree, right? It was like a hollowed out tree?
You're not necessarily in it. I mean, you could walk in it if you want, but the conversation was just kind of taking place kind of around the tree on the ground.
Gotcha. No, she would not go inside. She just kind of lingers. She actually drifts away a little bit and just kind of looks around, distancing herself physically from this rejection.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I didn't think, Dati will call back to Araga, that was one of the things I needed to tell you not to do. But I would not do that yet.
You see Araga kind of rubbing the back of her neck, and she just gives a sheepish smile over to you and says, well, considering the extent of my interactions with elves tended to be quite bloody, I think that was a moderate success.
Dati nods in that sort of way that says, okay, buddy.
I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed.
I know you're trying.
Araga just gives like a shrug.
And then keeps on in the gestured direction.
So, what would you have done if she'd been interested?
Araga winks. I'll tell you when you're older.
Just narrows his eyes at that.
You continue on through the sort of darkened shade of the trees, and there's no discernible path, but Dati can certainly keep her bearing, at least for, a short enough time that we're dealing with. And after several minutes, you see that the elf is back in vision. She's up ahead of the three of you, and she's kneeling, or crouching down on one knee, I suppose, next to a meerkat. And as you draw nearer, she kind of gives it a nudge, and this little critter just kind of darts off forward, and she gets up to her feet, and she starts jogging after it.
Was this interaction kind of playful or friendly? I was under the impression that meerkats are kind of big.
Yeah, so a meerkat is, I think, about knee-high, maybe thigh-high in some cases, and they usually travel in packs. They have venomous, poisonous? I think it's venomous.
Yeah, I just remember they're hairless, and it was
Fangs.
crazy.
Venomous.
And they're hairless.
They may also be poisonous. I don't know how.
You didn't try eating them. Yeah, it is venomous. I knew it was venomous. All right, there we go. Anyway.
Well, I mean, if you ate the venom, they'd be poisonous.
So it's not playful, no. It's highly unusual because these aren't really typically domestic creatures. I mean, admittedly, hunters can go like find a den of meerkats and kill the adults and like take the kids back and like try to raise them, but they're wild animals. But this looked like a very intentional interaction, and as she starts jogging after it, it is going ahead in the direction that she had told you to go.
You said it was safe, right?
Look behind you.
He looks behind him.
There's Grotto.
He looks down at Grotto.
Grotto is not exactly the most comforting thing because Grotto is quietly whining and staring at the thing.
Mm-hmm.
You said it was safe, right?
Grotto will not harm you unless I say so. Nor will this beast unless she says so. Grotto whines more quietly.
That's not comforting.
Araga gives Chorus a thumbs up. Where's your sense of adventure?
Got eaten by a 17-mile-long worm.
Whatever you say.
So as the group advances on and has this conversation, maybe 30 seconds, a minute later, the elf stops again, and there's no clearing, but there is a tree that is quite a bit larger than the others, and it looks almost like a sequoia, not like a really, really huge sequoia, but you're probably looking at like 30 feet around for the trunk of this thing.
Well,
That's a big tree.
And it rises above other trees, and she stops near the foot of the tree, and the meerkat that she's been following kind of zips off to one side, and it runs in a circle around the tree, and then it runs in a circle around the tree again. And the second time that it runs around the tree, it disappears, it being the meerkat, not the tree. Basically, right at the line where it has completed a second wrap around the tree, the meerkat just blinks out of existence, like it never existed in the first place. And as soon as that happens, the elf steps forward through what appears to be a doorway that is in the tree. You can be quite certain that it wasn't there before, and that it is unusual. It doesn't look like it goes into the tree necessarily. It's all very, very strange what's going on right now. And the elf is gone as she steps through this doorway, which leaves the three of you a little further away from this tree. And both of the other creatures that were nearby are now gone.
Are we supposed to fold into the tree like that?
I wouldn't suggest trying what the meerkat Dati offers, moving to follow the elf.
Mm-hmm. Dati vanishes as she reaches the tree.
Chorus looks at Araga.
Araga has a toothy grin. Don't worry, I've got your back.
He looks more worried.
She shoves him in the direction of the door.
This is exactly why he looked worried.
Chorus also vanishes as he's kind of shoved, stumbling into the doorway.
Araga picks up Grotto and hops on through.
Okay. So each of you appear in a hall. The step that you took was just a step forward, as far as you can tell, but your surroundings are quite different now. It appears as though you might be underground. The surroundings, the ceiling and the wall are mostly dirt, but it doesn't look loose. It doesn't look like anything has a chance of falling, and you can see that there are roots and maybe subterranean vines here or there that have sort of striated through the walls around you. The lighting is dim. There are torches here or there, but for the most part, it's quite a dark area. And the hall that you've appeared in stretches out a considerable length. There are long tables in it. It looks like sort of a cafeteria or a dining hall type situation. Although, save for your guide ahead of you, it is empty. To the left and right, there are other passages that lead elsewhere. And behind you, you can see there are a set of steps that you certainly don't recall coming down that appear to lead up somewhere out of view.
I thought this was a tree.
The tree was a tree, Dati will answer. Probably very unhelpfully, but also very truthfully.
What did Kory say after that?
He's just gonna glare at Araga.
Oh, okay.
Araga seems fascinated and is pointedly ignoring Chorus. Gently puts Grotto down, looking around. Maybe even posing to reach and touch a surface nearby.
It's fake. You fall through it and die.
There's nothing stopping you, and it doesn't appear to be fake. If you reach down to sort of a long wooden table, it supports your weight just fine.
She takes it.
I don't think she can pick it up.
Wow. Apparently Araga's weak.
She kind of runs her hand over it, gives it a little knock, looks to
Yeah.
Chorus and gives him a thumbs up.
Someone knocks back.
The elf sort of ducks out of view ahead for a moment, and she comes back with a bundle, sort of a leather satchel. It's bulging with something. And she comes back over to the three of you. She will switch to Barbarian and set the satchel down, and she says, "You're welcome to make yourself at home here and rest until you can set out." She flips open the satchel, and it has just it's basically just jam full of whey bread. Basically, there's nothing else in there that you can see immediately anyway. And she'll go on and say that this place isn't used often anymore. There's no particular need, so you should be undisturbed in your rest, and we can go over what it is I need you to do. Dati, she'll glance over and continue in Barbarian for the sake of the two Bayaga, to say, if you could fill me in on how your last errand went.
Dati will, especially given that it would be pointless to try and hide how the errand went with someone
Actively
who was
missing.
there. Well, not that, but hide it from the others.
Oh, I see.
with someone who was there the entire time.
Mm-hmm.
Blatantly lying in front of Chorus.
We'll continue in Barbarian. We were lucky to be as successful as we were at first. Without aid, we discovered... She pauses there. No, with aid. There was a local pair. The mother spent most of the time unconscious, but a young woman did aid us. It went well enough discovering, but we probably acted with a bit too much haste in trying to save the mother's life on behalf of the child, and so we had to face the thing alone. She'll peer back at Chorus, and it was an endless worm of a beast. We saw no end to it. We dropped a palisade onto it,
Chorus nods
Shot
at that
it.
part.
set fire to it, stabbed it, including with the magic that Seeker wielded so well, and in the end, at least, returned its corruption to the earth. And it was as we returned for shelter, supplies, and aid that we lost Seeker to bandits. She'll eye Chorus and say, "This one has been clever, if not brave, and
Wow.
Sorry, keep going.
strong-willed when most necessary. Very trustworthy within his limits, as
Chorus
is
is still trying to
necessary.
figure out if this is a compliment or not.
I would say it is as utterly truthful, and it's not meant to sway him. There's no, this is just what Chorus is in Dotty's eyes, you know? If he has been trying to be more than he is, then she's been describing him as more than he is, but if he's just been himself, then she's just describing him as himself.
Uh-huh.
You caught all that, right, Stella?
Yeah.
Yeah, just it's not a compliment, but it's not an insult. It's the-
Great.
The fine line where it's literally both.
Yeah, it's the good and the bad. That's a good point. It's the good and the bad.
It's just a whole bunch of backhanded compliments.
Could be, but yes, she'll then nod at Sigurd and say, "She has been aiding us."
Sigurd's
You
dead.
you can't do that.
Oh gosh. Now we heard. She'll nod
Araga.
Araga and say she has been aiding us on Ephranea's behalf.
The elf nods, and she'll settle down on an edge of the table and push up her mask so that she can reach over and collect a piece of whey bread and start chewing on it as she listens.
DM, is she hot?
You already did
yes.
this. You already did this last session. Yes, she's hot.
But we have lower facial structure now, Kevin. How hot
Oh
is
my
the
God.
lower facial structure?
You can see her whole face now. It's her mask is resting on top
Well,
of her face.
Kevin,
Yes.
this is
Okay.
my
She
liberation.
has angular features, sharp features with brown eyes.
are they big or small?
The eyes,
Yes.
Where the
They're
feet
Lar-
eye
larger
size.
eyes, but not too large, are cute.
They're not. They aren't larger eyes.
Bug-eyed.
They're kinda- She has like a pretty.
Oh, they're tiny eyes?
She has like a pretty
Well
defined
proportioned.
or angular brow that gives her just like a little bit of a hooded, almost predatory look. Although
Okay.
she just looks kind of relaxed right now.
So she's a caveman with tiny eyes.
Okay, we need a new player.
A rock falls out of the sky, boulder crashes
Yeah.
on chorus.
Some vines just reach down.
I mean, if you want to kill me, just go start another combat scene.
Please don't.
And she'll keep eating and listening, and then eventually she gives a nod, and she'll say, "I'm glad that you were able to resolve the situation. Such things rarely come without cost." And that's about as near as she gets to acknowledging Sigurd's absence. Instead, she'll shift and continue on to tell Dati that new issues have come to light recently. There's a threat growing to the east of here. Long ago, long before your lifetime, and before the Ambrians came back across the mountains. There was a beast, or a lord you might say, called the Solemn King that we fought and put to rest. And in recent years, we've discovered that cultists have been working to bring his influence back into the forest, and the corruption is already beginning to spread from his resting place. I'm sending
we
you.
also killed some cultists.
Does he say that?
Yes.
She'll pause and glance over to Chorus, and then just offer like a very terse little smile and look back to Dati before continuing. I'm going to send you to speak to a lindworm. And after a moment,
Damn.
what?
I have the most unenthusiastic what? I have beast lore. Do I know what a
Uh-huh.
lindworm is?
Yeah, everyone knows what a lindworm is.
Do I
Our
know
last
more
party
than
was
everyone
known as-
else?
The Lindworm Slayers, because we beat a group of bandits who called themselves Lindworms.
Uh-huh.
That never came up in play, but we did talk about it.
It is a thing that you talked about, I recall. Yes. Lindworms
Fuck.
are sort of ancient. Okay, so what you know of lindworms is that
Are they hot?
they're ancient, canny snake dragon things. They're much more the case of, I'd say, legend than anything else. It's rare for people to encounter them because they're old and they don't have much reason to interact with people most of the time. probably the way that Araga, and in fact probably Chorus, has become acquainted with lindworms is that the northern clan of Gawai, which is very far away, right? It's you never run into anyone from this clan except for when they ventured down to a Thingstead at Karvasti. There's absolutely no reason you would ever run into them any other time. But you do hear that they as a clan are actually led by a lindworm. They take guidance from an infinitely wise creature called Grandfather Lint. And other lindworms are rumored to exist, but it's usually better not to pursue those rumors because very few people can claim that they've actually met a lindworm. So that's kind of where you are with them. They're very dangerous, they're very old, and they're best avoided.
So, Chorus, with some apprehension, will speak up and say, well, they said this is still in Barbarian, right?
It is, yes. You are able to understand what is being said.
He'll say, and just what lindworm exactly do you expect us to go speak to?
Ost, she will answer.
He'll glance at Dati and less confidently at Araga, seeing if either of them recognize that name.
Go ahead and roll a relevant skill.
That's my favorite
let's see,
attribute.
what talents
Relevancy.
do you guess? Beast lore, bushcraft.
Can I cheat?
Fuck.
Let's see. What does Dati have? Let me look at. I'm looking at Garado's sheet. I don't think that matters.
See, Grotto has had many stories of Biogorn lore.
Can we please just get a roll just to see?
Is now I would say this falls under cunning, despite what it would normally fall under.
Yeah.
I'm all
Would
about
there
cunning.
be many songs about Ost?
No, there are absolutely no songs about him. You could go ahead, Kory. You could roll cunning at -5 to see if you've heard of Ost.
Can I roll cunning at -5?
Yep. Well, so for you, it'll be like -8.
I mean, that's
Dati has Iron Pact contacts, so.
still had a higher chance.
Okay, no one has heard anything of
Does
Ost.
does anyone act like they've heard? Like they know who Ost
Dati
is?
is not.
Yeah.
Does Araga act like she knows what's going on?
No.
All right. So Chorus just sees the confusion mirrored on other people's faces.
Does he do anything after asking that question and getting an answer? Does he just go quiet again?
I think he's gonna wait and see if Araga asks who it is. Let her volunteer to be the one to seem dumb.
So who exactly is this?
A lindworm. She's going to answer, and then she's going to look back to Dati. And her eyes kind of narrow, and she's searchingly staring at Dati after looking away from her companions.
Uh-oh.
Well, Araga is still going to continue, even if she's not looking at her.
That's okay. Go ahead.
Yes, you've said that. Perhaps you can give a bit of information.
She looks back from Dati and considers Araga for a few seconds.
Araga shifts uncomfortably on her feet and crosses her arms over her chest, and she looks very serious. She's trying to absorb the information here, but it's very clear that she doesn't know anything about this. But there is
Go ahead.
There is a pointed intentfulness. She is, after all, a monster hunter. So She is of the kind of mind that is mindful of what situations she's going to put herself into and to try to prepare herself for those situations the best she can.
The elf will shift about to sit facing Araga, and she draws her legs up onto the table, so she's sitting cross-legged atop it as she considers Araga. And after a moment, she will say, "There's very little I could tell you about that creature that you would understand. However, Ost has helped us previously, and I will send you with a gift. If you speak to it..." No. And she'll look at Dati and say, "If you speak to it, it will help us."
Carissa looks away for a moment, trying to hide a smirk.
And then she'll look back towards Araga and Chorus and say, "Do not be hostile to this thing, because it will kill you if you are." And she'll look back to Dati and say, "It should tell you how to open a path to the Solemn King. While you are finding this information and executing whatever it tells you to do, I will gather others who will go dispatch of the beast when you have opened the way for us."
Dati will nod a few times at that. There was something else that Chorus did helpfully remind. And then she'll fish about in her pack and pull out some wrapped up things. I forget what they are and didn't write it down. Apparently. But they're
Well,
the
what
things
are
we-
they?
Do you remember the things we found from the cultists? The little artifacts of some description?
You mean... No,
Yeah.
that wasn't cultists. That was like the band of treasure hunter dudes.
Oh, yes, the band of treasure hunter dudes.
We found 3 potential artifacts that you took all of them from
Yes.
Chorus, and he was very salty.
Especially the one that looked really dangerous. Anyways, she will present them just wholesale in their wrapped up state to the elf and say, "We found these on some interlopers who were set on killing anything they could in the woods and taking everything they could on the way."
Adventurers closer to looters than treasure hunters.
Okay, yeah. I'm trying to decipher my handwriting here.
Well, yes.
I see. You too, right?
You got one
Index.
lucky charm, which was like a rabbit's foot type thing.
I remember
You got
that
a
one.
starstone and a worn figurine. So you unwrap these and offer them over to her. She'll lean in, kind of consider them for a few seconds, and then lean back and shake her head and say, "I have no particular talent for spotting mystical powers in objects. They could be something or they could be nothing."
Dati will nod a few times and slip them over.
Chorus watches them get put away.
Araga is still very pointedly, intently focused on the elf. Did not seem at all offended by her pointedness and what she had to say, but Araga is paying 100% attention. 120% attention.
To the butt.
I mean, when she shifted her legs and went cross-legged, she totally checked out her legs, but
God.
You did this, Kevin.
eyes up right now.
God.
You're the one who said she was cute.
Yeah.
Because you asked.
You could have just given us an ugly elf. It would have been the only
an
one.
ugly elf.
The thing is that the sort of characters that are wondering if someone's hot, the answer will always be yes because they have incredibly low standards.
Yes, Araga has very, very, very low standards, and Chorus is under it.
Excuse me? This campaign's gonna end with Chorus getting rid of Araga.
One of her low standards is a higher requirement.
Araka could bench press you easily.
Okay, anyway, so she's offered those instructions. What does Dati say or do anything after showing off the trinkets?
I can't think of anything that would be of interest.
Okay. With a glance for Dati, and then that's more of like a searching, making sure no questions are forthcoming glance, and then a glance that's very much not searching for questions towards the two barbarians. She'll spring up off of the table and settle her mask back into place and announce that she has something to take care of, but you may make yourselves at home, and then she'll kind of lope up the stairs and out of view.
You hate to see her go, but you love to watch her walk away.
I am going to have your character have a heart attack.
I've just noticed that, like, almost everything that I do on the internet with V, somehow he works that sentence into literally everything that I do
Because
with him.
it is a great sentence.
Like, I'm 90% sure I heard that same sentence yesterday. I don't remember the context. Anyway.
What? It was not yesterday. I did not live yesterday.
Oh. I guess I'm just trained to hear that in the back of my mind or something.
It's like how I turned you into a Doberman pinscher, you know? I've just influenced you. You pinch people now. You're a Doberman pinscher.
Okay, anyway. Araga will kind of take a step after the elf as she's beginning to leave and say, would you happen to have any medical training?
Chorus looks at her.
Araga's like fucked up.
Chorus doesn't
medically.
even have a scratch on him right now.
Araga is very hurt.
It'll heal over time.
So you don't get an answer. She is already gone, essentially.
Well, she would have... She chases after her to ask this question.
Okay.
Dati, are you okay with that? Chorus gestures as Araga chases after.
Nobody will change my bandages. I need help.
Dati is going to shake her head faintly at Chorus. I warned both. And is content for everyone to learn experientially from bad decisions.
Okay. So the elf has jumped up these stairs that were behind you. Araga chases up after the stairs?
Yes, carefully.
She trips
Okay.
over every
In what fashion is she careful?
Slow.
Okay. So at the top of the stairs, the ground level's off. And rather than a hallway, there's just haziness ahead that you cannot make out. It's apparent that the elf is gone and presumably has entered this haziness. Does Araga continue into it?
What's the smart thing again? Is it cunning?
What? How would she do the opposite of that?
Cunning, yes.
Okay. Yeah, Araga slowly inches into the haze. Hello.
Okay.
Heal me.
Oh
She
my
has
God.
bandages in her hand.
I'm bleeding.
Okay. So as Araga inches into the haze, down below, Dati and Chorus kind of hear this piratey brogue from your companion of like, hello, heal, and then it's just gone.
Chorus looks at Dati again. Should I be worried about that?
Dati considers this. Are you worried about Araga? She wonders.
Ooh.
I'm worried about the trouble she could cause.
I have almost full and complete confidence that will not reflect badly on you in any fashion.
He nods, seeming satisfied.
And Dati settles down to start going over the waybread supplies.
Chorus takes like one thing of whey bread.
Okay. You can. I mean, there's probably 12
Yeah, he
pieces
takes
of whey
yeah.
bread in there.
Enough that it's given, especially that it's waybread.
Mm-hmm.
We'll be able to rest here and recover up to our full extent, I assume.
Yeah, we just
Yes.
slap whey bread onto our wounds.
Not a bandage.
It lasts for a week. It's the greatest bandage there is.
Just a supply. Okay. So you yeah, there are ample supplies. If you wander about, you will kind of discover there's a dormitory adjacent to the hall with sort of rows of beds. There is actually a cabinet with some medicinal supplies in it there. Some herbal cures and such.
Yeah.
Anything else you two are doing in the
I think just moving everything into the dormitory and
Chorus would roam around a little bit, just sort of inspecting the architecture and anything that looks like crafted.
Okay. So everything looks kind of I'd say natural. It's more, well, at least it gives the impression that it's almost been grown more so than
Dug out.
carved out. Dug out.
Mm-hmm. And I think, like, looking around at this, he would call out to Dati, like, how exactly do they make structures like this? It doesn't look as if it was influenced by normal means.
Has Dati how much curiosity has she expressed in her life over the ways of the elves in terms of architecture?
I assume that probably if this is a technique that is current, and it might be, then, you know, she, or even a, like, close to a technique that's current, she would pass that on.
Okay.
When she was 3, she asked the stupid child question, and the elves were just like, fuck off.
But yeah, you know, if to this day still there are elven mages working this sort of magic, then yeah, I'd say. But otherwise, no, probably not.
So they're saying that if it's an old practice, no,
Yeah.
but if it's a current practice, yes.
Yeah, so this is an older enclave. It's not even what Dati would know
Mm-hmm.
to be like a town or a real dwelling. It seems more like an outpost, very nice outpost, albeit, but and it's certainly something that predates most of what she would think is kind of current production. Chorus, go ahead and roll vigilance while you're poking around.
Oh. Is this where spikes fall? I'm very vigilant. I'm almost as vigilant as I could be.
So as you're exploring down the corridor opposite the dormitory, and which is on the far side of the sort of the dining hall that you had the conversation in, you notice that the hall sort of gets choked off. It's like the earth has sort of begun to reclaim some of these passages that are perhaps less used than others. And being of a curious mind, Chorus kind of squeezes through one such.
He's very thin and very short. He can fit most places.
Right, yes. This is somewhere Arga definitely couldn't fit, but Chorus just squeezes right through and is checking things out. And he happens across a somewhat peculiar sight in that at the end of the hall, there appears to be a well. There are kind of a ring of stone circles. And in the center, it's just a very deep, dark pit that's perhaps 3.5 feet across. It's not very wide. At the top, this ring of stone has a number of what look to him to be kind of like hieroglyphics, but they're just kind of etchings as far as Chorus is concerned. They have no real meaning. Mm-hmm.
Do I see any buckets or ropes nearby?
No, it doesn't appear that there's anything of that sort in the area.
Well then, since Araga's dead and we don't need to hurry this up, he's going to tie one of his grappling hook bolts or like around his his water skin, and then just descend it to the bottom to try and fill it up.
Okay, sure. The water skin. Okay, yeah. So it's going to be really awkward just because water skins aren't great at submerging themselves and filling things up. But you do kind of, as you're reaching down there, you notice there's a bit of splashing and some of the weight disappears at first and then steadily gets heavier as you actually run into some water down there. And eventually, yeah, you will have a full water skin.
And then it'll pull it back up and head back over to Dati.
Okay. So you will rejoin.
I found this weird well.
Have you tried the water yet? Dati inquires.
He holds up the newly filled and probably still drying water skin.
So you have not tried the water.
No, I was probably going to give it to Araga first.
Dati will extend a hand for the water skin.
He'll hand it over.
Dati tries the water skin. Is it water?
It is water. It tastes a little sweet.
Water.
Just a little sweet, pretty
Ooh,
cool.
it's Jacob's water.
And that's about it. It seems good. You don't suddenly start having fits or a seizure or anything like
You
that.
don't get 6 points of permanent corruption, hit your threshold, and then turn into an abomination.
Only you. Dati passes over the water skin. It's fine.
Of course, we'll put it away.
I am sure that Araga will make her return here, and when
She's
she
still
does,
not back yet?
I warned the both of them.
Chorus will shrug and go find a place to like put all of his stuff down.
All right.
Meanwhile, in Gonnersville,
Araga steps forward into this kind of misty fog type stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And everything's a little different. The dim light below is now essentially gone. She is surrounded more or less by darkness on every side.
hello darkness, my old friend.
The ground is sort of a grayish shape in a narrow line that proceeds before and maybe only a step or two behind you. You can hear sounds ahead of you, though they're muffled and difficult to make out. There's also something happening off to the left, but it cannot be seen. It is in utter darkness. That's sort of where Arga is at the moment.
Arga will just keep going straight, following after the muffled sound.
Okay.
She looks uncertain. She looks like she realizes that she has probably made a mistake, but she is
too stubborn.
strong-headed. Bayaga continues forward with the determination of a Bygorn.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Is Araga cute?
No,
That's not a question I can answer.
she's not cute.
Oof, that would her cute.
Arga forges onward and feels a little disconnected as she moves on. It's not a sluggishness necessarily, it's just things don't feel the way that they should feel, that all of her martial training and experience with the world has told her the world feels when you're walking in it. It's almost like a dream. And as she pursues these sounds ahead of her, everything turns completely dark. And then after another few steps, there's a very bracing, cold, sort of wet feeling as if she's being pushed through like a stream or some body of water. And then all of a sudden, she is back in the forest. She stands kind of at the foot of a set of large stones that have fallen into ruin, but there were clearly some structure at one point in time. It's sort of almost what looks like it might have been a black marble at one point, but it's very faded and worn, and there's moss growing over it in different sides. It has absolutely no resemblance to the tree, and if Arga does glance back, she'll see that there's really no resemblance even in the type of terrain for where she is now compared to where she was before.
Huh.
There are sounds up ahead. Now the brutal sort of shrill cries of some kind of monster that must be occupied in combat from the sounds of it. Ahead, sort of alongside these ruins, but there's nothing in sight right now.
Okay, she turns around.
Okay. So she's
Way to
turning
give
around, like to leave.
Can she recognize the sound of this creature?
It
Does
sounds,
it sound bestial or more like nightmarish?
It sounds demonic.
Okay.
It is not something that Arga recognizes. Certainly not.
Okay. Is there like a bush or tree nearby?
So nothing stands out as this is a doorway to get back to the path that you just took to get where you are now. Arga more or less stands between forest and ruin, the ruin looking almost like it's the side of a mountain.
Okay.
Which is concerning in the sense that there weren't any mountains previously where you were traveling.
She'll pick up a rock.
Okay.
She essentially just wants to pick up evidence of, hey, I was here with a thing. I am returning with a thing that was not inside this tree.
Mm-hmm.
So she picks
And
up
what
a
does she
rock.
do?
And she turns around and tries to go back the way she came.
Okay. That plan does become more difficult because there isn't anything behind you beyond the landscape. And though Arga hasn't really moved from where she emerged other than to grab that rock as she steps forward back onto this shadowy path. She, in fact, only takes a step forward and remains sort of in the tree line.
Well, fuck.
Well, Kory, it was nice knowing her, Raga. She's on the Space Force now.
Araga squeezes the rock and thinks for a little bit.
What would I roll relating to concern?
Alright. She's going to does the sound close?
Yeah, it's probably 20 or 30 meters away, you'd say. So not on you, but close for sure.
Okay. And it's fighting something.
It is definitely the sounds of fighting,
Fuck. Probably fighting something that also wants to fight her.
How long has passed? Time-wise.
Sorry?
How long has it been since Araga, chased after? For us.
So this is probably taking place a little after your conversation with Dati. Her traveling the path took a little while, so you guys are definitely going to have at least 10-15 minutes go by of just absolutely nothing since her voice cut off.
Arga's gonna look for a place to hide. She definitely does not want to approach the fight.
Yeah.
She really wants to know who's fighting what, but chances are the two things that are fighting, whoever survives is going to want to fight her.
Go ahead and roll vigilant. You can get a +2 from your bushcraft.
Hey, she's all about crafting those bushes. Roll again, confirm, Stella. Oh.
Okay.
Regular.
Still a success though. And yeah, so you are able to see a couple different options for hiding places. Back in the tree line, there is sort of a dense sprawl of undergrowth around the foot of a couple of the trees, and Arga could certainly kind of worm herself down into those and be mostly concealed by the brush. Alternatively, if she were to move towards this ruin, there are definitely shadowy holes where kind of these bouldery foundational stones have crumbled and fallen together that you could definitely kind of tuck away into any number of them and be more or less out of sight.
Probably the brush.
Okay.
Arga steps towards that way and tries to obscure herself as much as she can.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. So she'll kind of crawl down and worm her way into cover.
And she will utilize her monster hunting patience to try to be as quiet and still as possible.
Sounds good.
How wounded does Araga look?
6 out of 14.
So, heavy limp, but still going?
Yeah, she's very stubborn. She's stiff all over.
I think Chorus is gonna talk to Dati you don't think she collapsed somewhere, do you?
Dati is clearly thinking about this. And she will, with a reluctant look over the nice accoutrements of the place, start collecting the supplies that they need. I've never been in one of these before. I do not know if we will be able to return without permission, she declares.
So don't leave anything behind.
So don't leave anything behind.
Chorus gathers all of his stuff back up.
We're given like these super swaggy fucking quarters to rest up, and Arga goes through a fucking portal. Nailed it.
So, yeah, Dati will pack up the supplies and split them with Chorus because there's no Araga to split them with.
Chorus
then-
will keep them in like a separate pouch to just give to Araga later.
Yeah, and then she will just start heading for the stairs with Grotto and Chorus.
He will follow after.
Okay. So you quickly come upon this mist that Arga pushed through. As you step forward into it, it begins to feel somewhat unsettling and strange.
Well, so like, do we get any sort of weird situations before we go into it? Like, is it just a mist or?
So as you go up the stairs, you will see that there's sort of a dark mist obscuring vision, rather than a corridor, which is what you might expect, or doors or something like that. As you begin to step into it, you will start feeling very strange. You are able to stop at any point along that way.
Yeah, Chorus is a very suspicious person.
Uh-huh.
Or like, at first seeing this, he's gonna question Dati about it
Mm-hmm.
first if they have any knowledge.
This is the way the elf went. This is the way Araga went. This is the only way out, yes?
This is the way out.
The only
questions?
way out. And then she'll keep going.
Chorus will leave a rope behind him as he goes.
Okay. What does he secure it to?
He just has it on the ground. It's more of like a guiding rope than a like I'm about to walk off of a cliff rope.
Okay.
Oh, it's
So
like a
he
trail,
just
not a
basically
leash.
drops a rope on the ground and starts spooling it out as he's walking.
Breadcrumbs.
Sure.
In case
So-
he gets lost in whatever this
Dotti's bringing Grotto, I assume.
Yes, Grotto is coming with.
Okay. Grotto's probably freaking out a little bit. So
Dati will spend the entire time groaning back at him because, or her rather.
Her, yeah.
He will be whining and groaning, and Dottie will be groaning and growling to as much soothe as just get Grotto to continue.
Going. Okay. So first, Dottie and Grotto step through. And how long does Chorus spend kind of setting up before stepping out after them?
I think it would just be like pulls the rope out of his pack, like wraps it around his arm, and then just starts dropping it as he goes.
Okay.
So maybe like a minute or two.
A minute or two. Okay. Dottie, when you step into the mist, there is, similar to what Arga experienced, a severe reduction in light.
Mhm.
There's a very grayish floor immediately around you. But beyond that, it is impossible to make out your surroundings.
Dottie starts calling out for Araga.
Okay. There is no immediate response, but you do hear something similar to shambling off to your left.
Do I hear him or her calling out for?
Chorus has not stepped in yet. From the entrance, he can very faintly hear a call to Araga, but it sounds exceptionally far away.
Okay.
Dottie will head towards the shambling carefully.
Okay. Yeah, so at this point, Chorus would step in. He can not see Dati or Grotto, but he can hear the calls. They're a little closer, but still somewhat muffled. They start ahead of him and then start moving a little to the left.
Chorus is gonna try to navigate by like sound and smell, like try to figure out if there's either like fresh air coming from somewhere or the sounds of other things in the distance that might direct towards an opening.
All the Biogorn bear smell.
The two,
Sorry, so what's his ultimate?
because he said it's like very hard to see in here, he's trying to navigate through like sound and smell.
Got you. It smells musty and dry in this space, which is actually quite different than the smell when you were in the outpost, because that was very earthy and not damp, but kind of full of life, I guess. Here, musty and damp, dark,
Like
rather.
a crypt.
Kind of like a crypt. It would be very like a crypt, except there's this sense of disconnection that mounts with each step. It feels as though you aren't entirely solid and the things around you aren't entirely solid either.
Ah, so I'm a ghost in a crypt. Got it.
Right. Yep, that's on the nose.
Figured it out, boys.
You're a dust bunny inside a vacuum cleaner.
Inside another vacuum cleaner.
Nailed it.
Okay.
With a hammer.
Okay. Yeah, so Dottie pursues the shambling. And
Kevin's just thinking, these idiots. They had one job to just arrest up.
after a moment, she will kind of encounter what appears to be a
Necromage.
you die.
You
No,
run away.
she encounters. It looks about the size and dimensions of like a big cask of something, but rather than wood and stone binding, it has a very pale whitish coloration to it, and there are odd, seemingly bone-like protrusions sticking out beneath what must be skin, and it's sort of rocking one way or the other, and the shambling that you've heard is the sound of this kind of flesh scraping across whatever the ground is here.
Touch it.
This doesn't seem like the thing you touch,
Touch it.
disturb, or otherwise involve yourself in, unless directed to expressly by someone higher up in the Iron Pact than you, or
Touch it.
someone equal with you that has far more knowledge than you.
Throw
Touch
the Biogorn bear at it, and you're not liable
So,
because it's a
Dottie
bear.
starts backing up
Touch it.
while calling for Araga or Chorus.
Touch it.
So, Chorus, you hear a sound beginning to come a little closer to you, and suddenly your name is added to the calls for Araga.
Chorus will start walking in that general direction.
Okay. It takes what feels like maybe 5 minutes or so, but you will encounter Dati in the darkness.
Did you get lost?
We should not be here.
I mean, I don't think any of us wanted to be here.
There are things within this that we are not prepared to deal with.
This is Davokar. Everywhere has things we're not prepared to deal with. Let's just get Araga and leave.
Where do you think Araga is?
Oh, if there's a thing you met, she isn't this way. Otherwise, one of them would be dead.
Dati deeply considers this and then just gives a very impressed nod and gestures for Chorus to lead the way.
Chorus will go a direction that wasn't the way Dati came and isn't the way the rope is.
Okay.
Oh.
Do you have anything that is informing the direction other than those 2 parameters?
He's gonna keep listening out and tell Dati to shut up.
Okay.
Dati passes on that it is time to shut up to Grotto,
Mm-hmm.
and then shuts up.
Grotto also, goes quiet. So you can hear this kind of shuffling coming from the direction that Dati returned from, but that's about it right now.
All right. So
There is a sort of a pale. So the ground is like this pale, shadowy gray thing, and to the sides it dims, and you lose sight very quickly. You can see ahead just a little further, but the only thing you can make out is the ground, nothing else.
So is this like a straight hallway, or is it just sort of like we're in a void?
You very much feel like you're in a void.
Okay, so then knowing where the sound of the shambling is and holding the rope in his hand, he's gonna
Mhm.
go the opposite direction of the shambling. Like, sort of like,
Is
in
it
a
kind of off
Y.
to the right?
Triangulate!
Yes, he's gonna go in a Y shape. You know? The 2 points of the Y are the rope and the shambling, and the body is where he's going.
The body?
Like this. Here is
Oh, the
rope.
body of the
Here
Y.
is
I thought you meant a
sound.
body. I was
Here's
like, I
where he
haven't said
goes.
anything about a body. What?
How do
The
I get rid of
trunk.
that?
I'll
Right
get rid of
click.
it. So here, let me actually. What I'll do here is
Switch to a map.
No, just give us a black screen. It'll be fitting.
oh dear, I've changed the display for this, and now I don't know.
Hey, we ruined everything. Let's go, boys.
I'm just glad that there's no one else experiencing this horrible, horrible thing that Kevin has produced. Side dismissed.
Oh, this is wrong. That's not right.
I mean,
Okay,
I don't even
alright,
actually remember what Kevin said, so.
Okay. So we'll just use this to describe where we are right now. Although there's far more light in this picture than otherwise, but I don't have anything else uploaded. So right now, you have. Gosh darn. I will take away your ability to draw. Oh shoot, that's me.
Just
Okay.
destroyed that man's head.
Let me make
He's
this.
having such a good day, too.
Where's the color?
He's just gonna draw over it all in black.
No. Alright. So you have been going north, say. Just a couple steps from the entrance. This is like a lot of. And the rope is going down like to the south, right? So the rope is from the south and you are near the top of the line. Right now.
I see a line now.
Yep. Right now, you have sort of heard the shambling over here to the left,
Okay.
which is where Dati came back from.
Mhm.
And that's basically all the information you have.
Alright, well then, for the moment, he's just gonna keep going forward.
Keep going forward. Okay, cool. All right, you forge on.
So
How
what did you see?
long- Oh, go ahead.
What was this thing we should not have encountered?
A shape of flesh and bone.
He'll nod at
Shifting
that.
back and forth.
Surprised you didn't immediately go on a crusade to kill it.
We are short one individual. We are not all hale and healthy. And whatever it is here sharing this space with us.
Thinking about things before you fight them hasn't generally been your plan.
There has been little we have been permitted time to speak with. But I have managed more diplomacy than you have, Kory.
Ah, yes, the diplomacy of feeding a man their own poison and watching them die instead of getting more answers.
It was justice.
There's many forms of justice, and not all of them must be instant.
His took.
Of course, will keep walking along for as long as they have rope.
Okay. So the rope does run out in the darkness, and you're sort of left with the decision to turn back or to continue on without it, or to fashion more. That's obviously something you could do.
He'll glance around, think about how long they've been walking. Look, from what I know of her, she's stubborn as hell. But even Araga would at one point have stopped walking forward in this.
Are you planning to find something else in here?
We don't know what other offshoots might lead to. Curse will hold his hand out and say, "Give me your rope."
Dati passes on rope.
And he's gonna tie it to the one he currently has and just sort of like jam a bolt into it and into the ground to like kind of hold it in place where it is. So
Okay.
like to keep in mind of like this is the intersection. And he's gonna go off to the east with this new rope.
Okay. Go ahead and roll discreet.
We're gonna die to a coffin thing. Daddy's gonna die to a coffin thing.
Oh, are we both rolling discreet?
No, just chorus is fine. You're just keeping close to chorus right now, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, then you don't need a roll. Okay. So you continue on, and a short time after making that turn, the darkness becomes more
Dark.
intense in a way. You can no longer see the ground beneath your feet. You can no longer see the rope that you're feeding out, but you can still feel it distantly. And
I think is it a gradual thing or like
it is gradual, yeah. You can stop anytime along the way.
So as it gets gradual, Chorus is gonna tell Dati to make sure they're holding on to the rope.
Dati holds on to the rope.
Okay.
As she follows after Chorus.
And Chorus, after a moment, feels a sudden chill. Feels as though he's pushing through something like a cold stream. And suddenly he is out of this darkness. Dati very abruptly no longer hears any movement ahead of her.
Mm-hmm.
And the rope drops slack.
Dati stops and just sighs. Stares at the way forward for about 5 seconds and then follows. Actually, you know what? She doesn't. How long do you think it would take her to... I can't do this. I said she follows. She follows.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Fuck, Mr. Impulsive.
You have
Yep.
the ability to
Nope.
change your mind.
Nope.
Yeah.
I said she follows. She follows.
Wine, Biogorn noises.
Okay. So Chorus appears in sorry.
And
A
an icy
waterfall.
mountain cap. Is this how we end up in 3 different places in Davokar?
So Chorus appears in the very dim light of late evening. And one step he's kind of in this dark, crypt-like environment. The next step, he is half encased in sort of squelching, mire-like swamp mud. You're about thigh deep in not really filth, just wet mud, and surrounding you is swampland in every direction.
Am I sinking?
No, you're not sinking. You're just I mean, you might be sinking a little bit, but not like in a oh no, I'm gonna die sense. More like a this sucks sense.
Well, guess I'll die. Chorus looks around.
Okay. There's no life immediately visible around you. You can't tell much at a glance, other than the fact that you appear to be about 20 feet away from a dry bank to the west of you, if the light is any indication of direction, which might not be reliable right now, and maybe 40 or so feet to the east. To the north and south, the swamp sort of continues, growing a little more river-like in places and a little more swamp-like in others. Reeds push through the watery mud here and there. Veiny little scrawny trees do in others.
And looking at the rope he's holding.
Yeah, so Chorus is holding all of the rope that he had not spooled out, and about 5 inches of rope that he had spooled out, which is just dangling behind him now in the air.
Like, limp or floating?
It is limp and disconnected
Okay.
from the rest of the rope.
I was
Like
is
on the ground or floating in the air?
Like, we're trying to make
the
sure
part
that, like...
that he is holding in his hand
Mhm.
extends for a few inches and is cut off, and there is nothing else to be seen. It is dangling. It is not floating.
Well, we're trying to make sure
It is
it's not,
subject to
like,
gravity. It's not
magical-
connected to anything. It's been
Okay.
cut. It's been cut.
Okay. Well, you said floating.
Look,
I don't know
dangling
why I
is a
said
term.
floating.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's
I
why
should
we
have
were
said
asking for
dangling.
clarification. Okay.
We just
Okay.
wanted to make sure that there isn't a rope just in the air.
Nope.
All right. Chorus is
Now
gonna
on a very small length of rope.
stare at his hand, stare at the rope, wait like 10 seconds, staring behind him.
Does Dati appear within 10 seconds?
No, it takes longer than that.
Okay.
And then he's gonna judge the swamp and see which looks like it might be the safer path to land. Like if he can see where some bits of ground might rise up in the swamp.
Okay. Roll
walk along.
vigilant.
Rise up, rise up.
So he doesn't just walk into like the deep end of the swamp and submerge.
Alligators.
So you can't tell what's beneath the surface, but you can tell that the shorter path is probably the safer one, which would be back towards what you are calling your west right now, at least. It definitely looks like it reaches ground faster, and that seems like the easiest metric for safety.
Well, he will carefully make his way over there.
Okay. About a minute after you've started making your way there, Dati is going to appear right where Chorus was. She is holding... Well, I don't know if she kept hanging onto the rope. If she did hang onto the rope, she's got about a foot of rope. In her
Is it
hand.
floating?
Yes, this one is floating.
Ooh.
Dati has a magic rope now. As Dati emerges,
Uh-huh.
he just tosses the chunk of rope down, and do you see any sign of Sigra? Shit, Araga!
Wait, is this in character?
Yes, because you're impulsive.
Yeah, I
in
guess.
character helper.
I would say her reaction would not be shit, Araga, as if it were a mild inconvenience, but instead a lengthy flinch and then muttered Araga, and then silence.
Chorus will look back, eyes showing a bit of concern for a moment, and also a bit of surprise at you being there. And then shake his head, saying, "No sign of her yet."
If I were wise at all, I would have taken the time to recover both the ropes.
Chorus nods. Ooh, it might have helped, but also it had been staked down. You would have had to go back for it. And then he's gonna continue making his way to the embankment.
Okay. Yeah, you two sort of forge your way towards the bank. In our other part of the party, Araga is hiding in the undergrowth, listening to this battle that tapers off. There's baying, there's something that sounds like howling, there are demonic roars, and an awful lot of fighting. And then it stops. And there is no longer any combat to be heard.
Great. Raga does not move an inch.
Mm-hmm. How long will she wait for?
An hour.
Okay.
This is not cowardice. This is predatory tactics.
This is extreme cowardice.
Prudence.
This is Meira levels of cowardice.
You know what? Araga stands up.
Okay. After how long?
10 minutes.
10 minutes?
60 minutes.
What does she do when she stands up?
She stands up slowly, quietly.
Mm-hmm.
She tries to peer around in the direction of the fighting.
Okay. Because you didn't actually get any closer to the fighting, it still sounds like most of it happened about 20-30 meters, sort of around the bend of this fallen structure. So you have not seen anything just yet, and it still looks clear in that direction.
Okay. Well, very slowly she'll make her way towards it.
Okay.
You can do it, Stella.
God
Roll
damn it,
your
V.
discreet.
God damn it, V. God damn it, V. God damn it, V.
My fault.
It's 100% your fault. Everything is always your fault.
You're the one who ran off by yourself.
So this is V's fault that you passed.
This
Good
is
job, V.
100% V's fault.
I'm proud that V let you pass. Thank you, V.
Anytime. Subject.
Wow.
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 Oh my god. Look at
Araga
that butt.
creeps forward through the first the undergrowth, and then this sort of stony, dirty mix of the ground.
Uncharacteristically silent.
Uncharacteristically silent, indeed. Maybe the gravity of the situation has given her a little more stealth than she ordinarily has. But she's deft in the choice of her footing, and she makes it closer to the sound of this combat, and then starts creeping along over sort of rocks and boulders, gaining a little elevation. And then she's at the bend and she can peek over it. The site below her is fairly bloody. There are a number of bodies in the area. Probably the most remarkable of them is the body of a veiny, sort of milky grayish skinned thing that appears to be just this enormous four-limbed, not quite legged and armed beast. It looks like each limb is about the size of a person, and in life it's positioned in such a way that it might have stood on all four at once while crouching on the ground, but it has a pair of enormous long wings that sprout out of its back into either direction. Right now it is sprawled on the ground, covered in lacerations and sort of pieces of bloody flesh. Its head is this bulbous, protruding thing with no lips to cover the sort of spiky teeth that stick out in a variety of directions in a variety of rows, much like shark's teeth. And it has a very long, probably 6 or 7 foot tongue hanging out of its jaw that's covered in bristling thorns. And its eyes are sightless and colorless now, but it have red traces, and they're sort of protrusive and multifaceted, like an insect's might be.
Disgusting.
Yeah, so that's on the ground and it's dead, which is good for you. Around it there are yeah, except for the other 3. Around this beast there are a pair of more human bodies covered in robes, maybe sorcerers, maybe cultists or something that are also dead in the area. A couple feet away, a wolf lies on the ground, and it looks like it has died. And a couple feet beyond that, what appears to be another humanoid figure, but clad in more natural colors and with a mask covering its face, has also died. What remains in the area is what appears to be just a single wolf, quite a bit larger than any natural canine that you've seen, that's prowling the area and sniffing at various things. It bleeds from a few places, not openly, but enough to kind of put red streaks through its fur.
Quick, you still have 10 XP, Stella. Spend 5 of it to get a pet.
Oh man. I am
dumb.
What do I know about giant wolves?
I'm a monster hunter.
You are a monster hunter.
She's a monster hunter.
So they're dangerous. They aren't something that you encounter much in Bayaga land. Wolves are more of an eastern thing. What you've heard is that they hunt in packs. They are natural creatures. They are not riddled by corruption or anything like that. And they tend to be fairly reclusive. They are, just sort of pack-oriented predators that take fights when they want to feed and hunt, but otherwise try to keep to their own and try to keep their families safe, etc.
Okay. Araga will see if she can notice any tracks or signs of anything else that might have survived this fray and what direction they might have gone.
Okay.
Tracker.
Go ahead and roll vigilant at -2.
That's not. No.
No.
Okay. From her position, kind of where she's hidden herself away while she's observing, she's just a little too far away to get a good look at the ground. She'd have to go down and really look at it in person.
Okay. She will just watch the wolf for now. Try to see if it'll eventually move on.
Okay.
But you're both injured animals. This is how you bond.
I don't think that is how it's gonna go down, V.
Look, just do the stupid thing, Stella.
Like I have been.
Well, then keep going, you know? Never change. Never do the smart thing.
The wolf continues to prowl the area for a time, and after maybe 5 minutes of doing so, it trots down the slope of this mountainous building. It passes the bodies of the monster and those closest to it to pad its way over towards the masked figure on the ground. As it reaches the figure, there's a pretty stark change to the wolf. At first, it's hard to place what's happening. It just looks like maybe it's beginning to sit in an odd position or something. But as Araga keeps looking, the whole body of the creature begins to change. It elongates, it grows. And before her eyes, the wolf becomes taller and a little thinner, and it turns into a humanoid figure, hair receding to just be a normal body. And the woman that's revealed sort of crouches down. She'll reach down inside the body for like a sort of a cloak that's on the ground that she pulls and kind of hefts over her shoulders. You can't see much about her other than that she was a wolf and now she's a person.
Is she
Okay.
cute?
And she's crouching by this masked figure. It looks like she might be saying something, but it's too far away to hear. If Araga does not interrupt immediately, does she?
No, she will watch.
Okay. The figure sort of reaches down to collect something and then begins standing up to return over to the other sets of bodies. As she turns to face you, you'll see that she's wearing a mask now. And it is the same mask of the elf that you were following earlier. She has what appears to be some form of short sword in one hand, and she is mostly covered by the cloak. She'll step across to the body of this demonic-looking creature, and it appears that she begins sawing into its neck to remove its head.
It's female Dane.
Did she
What?
pull the mask off of the body? Is that what happened?
No, she
Just the
as you can
cloak.
tell, the cloak came from the ground beside the body, though. It was
Okay.
an unoccupied
Okay.
cloak. The body doesn't look disturbed.
Okay. At that point, Araga will probably get up and slowly make her way down.
Okay. Araga begins to descend.
Not quietly.
Yeah, I didn't
Well,
think
do
so.
a
But
discreet
good
check first.
clarification. And basically, as soon as she starts moving, the head of this elf kind of whips up to fix her with a stare. And for a moment, the elf remains perfectly still. Then she kind of lunges up the slope to close the distance between the two of you. She halts maybe 5 feet away or so, and she's holding the short sword at an angle that does not invite getting any closer between them. How does Araga react to the
Araga immediately stops as like the elf begins to close distance. She holds up her hands, one of which is still holding bandages.
Mm-hmm.
Please bandage me.
Are you alright?
So a litany of words kind of pour forth from beneath the mask, and Araga doesn't understand any of them.
Nope. Smiley face. Araga doesn't smile.
Yeah, okay, that's good. After a moment, the elf pauses, and you can kind of see where visible beneath the cloak. Like, she has kind of bloody arms and kind of a surfeit of cuts here and there. And the elf very clearly has to sort of clench her muscles to deal with something before she actually responds in a language that Araga understands, at which point she'll say in barbarian, like, what are you doing here?
I was talking to you and you walked away.
The elf just stares at Araga.
Araga just stares and slowly offers the band-aids forward.
Please bandage me.
You look like you need this more than I do now.
The elf remains silent for a few seconds, and then just kind of lashes out with her free hand to snag the bandages out of Araga's offering grasp. She'll turn away and begin stalking down towards the scene of the battle.
Araga awkwardly stands there.
This is your chance to flirt, Stella.
She rubs the back of her neck, looking like she's out of place. She'll actually look over to the monster.
Mm-hmm.
Has the head been completely sawn off by now?
No, she only got about a quarter of the way in before she noticed Araga and stopped, but she is walking back down that way to resume.
Okay. Araga will follow and try to help.
Okay. So the elf steps down and kind of lines up her blade to start working at the head again. But as she notices that Araga has followed her, she'll kind of just toss the sword away and gesture at Araga and her much larger sword to finish the job. And instead she drops back a few steps and begins using some of the bandages that she's taken from Araga.
Araga stretches and flexes, and she's gonna use those big girl muscles to cleave this fucking thing's head off.
Don't miss.
I mean, it's on the ground, and that's what she hits more often than not.
Well, she is a master of the vertical swing.
Yes, like
Go
this
ahead
is...
and roll your strong.
This is her wheelhouse.
But
Okay.
I'm wounded, okay?
So yeah, it hurts a little bit, and the bones to be found within this thing's neck are actually far more resilient than Araga was expecting. So it takes a little while longer than you'd like to cleave through the head. It's not just a one clean sweep sort of thing.
But what if I want to impress the elf? Fuck.
You've failed to impress an elf.
It's like a really messy line when you finally disconnect the head from the body. There's nothing clean about the marks.
God damn it.
You spray
and-
a little bit of blood on the elf.
But how strong do I look? There you go. Nailed it. God, I'm reaching.
You are reaching very far. Very far indeed. Yeah, so you do get through the head while the elf bandages. She sort of gives a cant of her head to stare down at the line in this thing's neck when it's finally been cut through.
I'm probably
Or
still
the
bleeding.
lines. And then her head twists back up to stare at Araga for a few seconds.
I think by the end of it, Araga like spears her sword to the ground and she's like leaning heavily against it while she's panting. She would have put like all her body into trying to butcher this thing, and she is just exhausted at this point.
The elf will somewhat flatly say, I considered being upset that you were here without helping, but now I think it's for the best. And she'll take a few steps down and then crouch to collect the head off the ground.
Araga, breathlessly trying to regain composure but failing, probably just gives a thumbs up.
The elf walks away and back down to sort of the more flat portion of the ground. She'll appropriate the dead human-ish figure on the ground's cloak to kind of lay out, and she'll set the head in the middle of the cloak and then begin wrapping it up.
So, what is this thing?
Gesturing to the obviously monstrous thing.
A Manigel, the elf will answer. She kind of has to stop in the way that she's folding up the head to wrap the tongue kind of around the head a few times to keep it from being way in the way, because it's just like really freaking big and obtrusive. And that itself is a somewhat delicate task because of all the thorns and such. But eventually she gets the job done. She kind of secures it in a package that stains through on one side with blood.
Araga
And
will
then she'll leave it on a horse.
She'll sheathe her sword and kind of extend her open arms towards it in a sort of, hey, I'm big and strong, I got muscles kind of way.
You just watched me cut off
Offering.
that head. I'll carry it for you.
She lifts the package and sets it in Arga's grasp. And if she does, she'll warn, try not to break it. This is what you're going to be giving Oast.
Okay.
And she just sounds kind of permanently vexed right now. And as she turns away, she'll scan the wood line for a few seconds before saying, now I have to figure out how to get you back.
Yes.
Oh no, that wasn't the elf speaking. That was Kevin's inner dialogue for this whole campaign.
Oh my goodness.
Well, we only have 15 minutes left.
We
have
could spend
18 minutes.
15 minutes talking about how you pronounced it muscles.
Hey, she did that on purpose.
I did do that on purpose.
You can't judge her when it's done for the effect. And please, we all know Araga would call it muscles.
Yeah.
Okay, so as this conversation is going on, Dati and Chorus claw their way out of the swamp and onto the bank. What's the next priority there?
How? You said it was like late afternoon or midday-ish?
Oh, it's quite late in the evening at this point.
So there aren't stars out yet?
No. There are definitely stars shining through. It's not totally dusk, but it's
Okay.
that point.
It's dark enough to where you can see.
Yeah, the
sightseeing
stars
stuff.
are beginning to show through.
Chorus is gonna try and see if he can recognize any faint constellations to get a vague idea.
Sure. Go ahead
where
and
they
roll
might be?
vigilance to see what you see.
Oh, that one hurts.
You want to say that some of the stars are familiar. You certainly hope so. But here or there, you spot something and you're like, I think that must be the stag, or oh, that must be the snake. But it's just not right. And you're unable to really puzzle together what that means.
It's too light out. Obvious.
It's too light out. What's Dottie up to?
I mean, honestly, Dottie doesn't want to be here, and this is her level of expertise.
I
So,
have an important question.
Uh-huh.
Where's the bio?
with us,
Yeah,
Okay.
Grotto is probably like
neck
feebly
deep in
trying
swamp.
to comb all of the swamp mud off of its coat right now that it's back on land,
It's just 90% swamp mud now.
basically.
All right, continue.
is it warm out?
It is quite warm. It's
Okay.
actually
I have
bit
just
sticky.
Googled this, and bears wallow in wet mud to keep them cool.
okay.
And also to
So
avoid
actually, while you
insect
guys
bite.
are on the
Yes.
Oh God, not again.
on the shore, instead, the Bygorn is kind of rolling around and just totally submerging itself in the swamp mud.
Yes. The
God damn it, Kory.
the nastier, more dank, the better.
Yeah, it smells a little
It's
sulfuric.
swamp mud. It
it's
doesn't
bad.
get more dank.
There are
Doesn't-
degrees.
Like,
Anyways, Dottie just looks over Chorus and says, "You're the tracker."
it's too light out. I can't see enough of the stars to fill out the constellations. I can see parts of them, but not the whole thing. He'll glance around and then try to see if there is a normal, sturdy-looking tree he could possibly climb.
Most of the trees in this area don't look healthy
Yeah.
enough to support much weight. You can see the farther west you go, the more sturdy the ground becomes, and the higher the tree line looks to become. So in that direction, there will probably be something you could climb, but you'll have to hike a little bit to get there.
Chorus is gonna recommend trying to get back into woodland.
You're the tracker.
Chorus is gonna note that he doesn't appreciate how sassy Dottie always sounds. But he says that he keeps that to himself.
Okay.
Yeah. Do we hear just the squelching of a Biogorn covered in swamp mud padding along behind us?
So you hear the squelching of your own boots. The shore that you're on is not all that sturdy. You're not in the swamp anymore, but you're definitely still in a mire. So each step kind of sinks you down maybe an inch or so. You leave very obvious prints. But aside from
Hopefully
the
there's
sound, it isn't
nothing
that bad.
lurking in here.
And you'll continue on west. Eventually, the ground becomes drier and more sturdy. The trees become a little taller, and after perhaps half an hour, at which point it is well and truly night, you are kind of back on what seems to be regular woodland soil.
Alright, is there a thick, sturdy tree nearby?
THICC.
It's
See?
a little difficult to gauge the quality of the trees in the darkness because they've become more like looming shadows at this point. But yes, there are a couple trees nearby that you could climb.
Alright, he's gonna load up a grappling hook bolt and then just sink it into the tree with a rope tied to it so he can climb up it.
Okay.
And then with a vantage point of that, he's gonna try again to get a clear view of the constellations.
Yeah, go ahead and roll Vigilant again at +2. Okay. From what you can tell, if what you're seeing is true and you're interpreting it correctly, you have to be really far east compared to where you were before. You are talking somewhere in the order of about 150 kilometers away from where your camp was. And this is a portion of Davokar that you have certainly never been to before. It is actually part of Dark Davokar, which is not thoroughly encouraging news.
Chorus randomly swears out loud with no context. While looking
Dati,
up at the
wait.
sky.
Well, actually, one moment.
You gotta think before you say that.
Dati waits 3 seconds and then inquires, "What is it now?"
We're in bloody dark Davokar.
How far?
Very. Roughly how many days would Chorus think they were away?
So you can travel about 20 kilometers a day through the forest.
So at least 12 to 13 days.
No, it was 150. It should be a week.
Yeah, it's about a week of travel away.
Alright, well, he will
Didn't
say
get lost or meet any obstacles along the way.
that. He
No. She'll call back up. How far to get out?
He'll how like close about would be the border of Dark Davokar?
If you're going south, it would probably only take 4 days of travel to get back. You could, if you really booked it, you could cut that down to depending on rolls, either 2 or 3. But there are dangers in moving that fast.
Chorus would call out the various amounts of time traveling, while also pointing out that they still don't have Araga. And they're in Dark Davokar.
This is Araga's mess. She will have to fix her portion of it. We will care for ourselves.
She barely has 2 working arms.
And she made that choice.
Chorus stops himself before saying something wildly inappropriate.
Thinking face?
Something. This is why Seeger died.
Ugh.
Wow.
But he doesn't say it. Instead, he's just gonna scan around and try to at least find a good place to shelter for the night.
Okay. Go ahead and roll vigilance at like -4.
Jeez.
Yeah, it's pretty dark. You're in a tree.
Also, Dark Davokar.
Also dark. Pretty dark in Dark Davokar.
Pretty dark, Akar.
Okay, so Chorus makes his way down, and you really can't tell much. This is unfamiliar territory. It's dark. You're covered
Davokar.
in mud. Wow, gonna get tired of that. And you have to make do with basically the first thing you find, because you can't promise yourself that you'll find anything better. But the two of you kind of hole up and manage to find what you hope is going to be a camp for the night. Do you just go to bed? Do you make fires? Do you kind of just stay in the dark? What's the...
He said it was very warm, right?
It is, yeah, it's quite warm.
So this mud is gonna dry off on its own.
Kind of. It's kind of a humid sort of warm, so things aren't going to dry very quickly.
Chorus is gonna recommend that unfortunately, they go the night without the fire, and then maybe during the day try to dry off and scrape off the mud with a fire.
Dati will nod at that and say, "We'll talk about that in our travel plans in the morning."
Okay. And so, Chorus and Dottie hunker down for the night. Well, elsewhere.
Yo, if we die, does one of us get to play as the elf?
None of us are hot enough to play the elf.
Excuse you? Hold on. What do we roll for hotness?
You don't. You don't get to roll.
Is it cunning minus persuasive?
No. Anyway, Ariga, meanwhile, is somewhere else that is completely unfamiliar to her, with the benefit of an elf escort.
Ooh,
And I think that's where we'll taper off for the evening and tackle the reunion of our party and or
Kevin's
death
just inwardly screaming,
with next
"What have
session.
they done?"
Well, thank you so much, Kevin, for another awesome episode. We're going to go around real quick and do some outros. We'll start off with Kory.
Bueno.
Adios.
Awesome. All right, V, tell us who you are and what you like to do.
Aloha.
You're a streamer.
Oh, did you know that? Did you know that I'm a streamer? I play variety games
Really? Tell me more.
like XCOM, and in fact, next month I'm thinking of doing a month of XCOM style video games.
Awesome.
Like Gears Tactics?
That
Gears
doesn't sound
Tactics,
very-
Chimera Squad, Mario and Rabbids Kingdom Battle, and on Mondays we do sexy content.
Oh my god, don't say it like that. That sounds so against TOS.
We do sexy video game content.
They do sexy bordering TOS content.
No, well within TOS content.
It's TOS adjacent.
Oh my god. Wow,
And
why do
also-
you make it super unwholesome?
And also Wednesdays I'm here.
Yes.
Oh, Stella, can I say something?
No! You had your turn. Twitch.tv/Vertigo Cross is where you can find him. And Kevin,
the
do you
link in
have
chat.
any
Still put the link
parting
in chat.
thoughts?
No, I think I'm all set. Thanks.
I'll
There
say
you
goodbye
go.
in a language, Kevin. Thanks.
Alright.
I didn't say goodbye in a language. I said good.
I'm Stella Luna. You can find me here at twitch.tv/Stella Luna. We do variety games here, TTRPGs, things of the artsy-fartsy kind. If you want to see more Symbaroum, we will be playing at 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time next week. Hopefully Twitch will not have any issues then, but until next time, hope everyone has a wonderful rest of your evening, and thank you so much for tuning in. See you later. Bye!
Wait,
Sponsored by
Quiznos.
Quiznos.